Are you ready?
Are you going to wear glasses?
Yeah.
You are?
Only because my beard isn't done. So I'm trying to take the focus off of my beard looking crazy. So at hat, hoodie, glasses, now it's less focus on the beard, right?
Fix your hoodie.
What's wrong with it?
Like that's tucked in on that side.
See? Maybe I wanted it that way.
Did you want to put it on backwards too?
Your mama. How about that? Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. What's up, people, and welcome to the Feelings First, Facts Later podcast with Nathan Mitchell and Cristina.
Hey.
This is another episode of the podcast where we're saying shit, but we ain't saying shit. But today is actually going to be a day where we do decide to get a little bit personal. Well, at least I'm definitely going to get personal. I don't know how personal
We'll
you're
see.
going to get. Yeah, we'll
I'm
see.
bringing it.
You just kind of
We'll see
fill it out.
if the mood is right.
You know what? You would think by now you would be a little bit more comfortable, but it's like
I get
it's like you're
personal.
no, you do.
I do.
But it still feels like you're in this state where you're still trying to get warmed up for the people. Like you're.
It's the state I live in.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
It's who I am.
How many episodes will it take before you just get on this mic and then it's just like
I don't know.
riding a bike with no
But
hands,
it's just who I am.
like a nigga on a bike.
And I also feel like when we do get personal, it's a lot of me anyways.
Okay. You don't think I get personal?
I think we get personal, but I think it's a lot of my shit that we end up talking about.
I think it is. I think it's because you are more on the serious side. When you get personal, it feels real intimate. And when I get personal, it's just like, oh, this is just me babbling, and I'm just saying things, or people think I'm playing. But I'm not playing.
This is true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because of the way I put it out.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Now you say that.
Or maybe you just get more personal than I do, and I'm just making all this shit up. But I definitely feel like there are times where I am saying something serious, but it doesn't come off that way because of how I come off.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about things that you do say, and you do really say some personal shit often.
But it's just done differently. It's not intimate.
But you're so nonchalant about it, right? So it's not intimate, right?
And that's the thing. And I guess
yeah.
And I okay, so that's almost like a debate when, like a good question. So when someone's getting personal about something, is it necessarily what they're speaking about or how it impacts them when it comes out of them? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
Yes.
Like, again, use us for example. I can say something that is personal to me.
Right.
That I decide to share with the world. But it doesn't bother me if I share with the world or not.
I think it's still personal.
Okay. But does it hit the same if it doesn't bother me coming out? Like, I feel like it always hits a little bit different when you could tell, like, this is something that was pulled out of somebody, something that they really didn't want the world to know, but now they're letting the world know.
Right.
Even if it doesn't, like, really mean as much as the person that just gave it all up and didn't really give a shit. Like, and what I mean by that is,
like the weight that it carries.
Right, the weight that it carries. But just because I'm carrying it better, does it look the same? Does it look like
or more casual rather?
Does it hit?
Does it hit? Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So I wonder what do people feel like they're getting most? Like, when do people feel like they're getting the most from someone? Is it what message that they're actually getting from the person, or how it's delivered and how it appears that it affects the person that it is coming from?
Yeah. It's a good question.
Maybe
it would depend on the receiver.
True. If I was a betting man, I would go with anytime something's packaged with emotions, it always feels like it's just a better gift to the world, even if it doesn't carry as much weight as.
Because I also think that when people do that, it doesn't happen as often as like the way you get personal. You know what I'm saying? I don't give people as much of myself as you do. So maybe it hits harder when I do because I don't do it as often.
Gotcha.
Maybe.
Maybe
not.
Obviously, we can't answer this. This is going to be from, for the people out there to answer. But I would like to to think that if I'm listening to no, because you know what? I think I'm crude enough where if I'm listening to something and someone's all and it's something that's not a big deal, be like, really? That was it? That was it? That's it? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I could see a world where
You're also just like, what shocks you anyways? Or what'll hit you and you'll be like, damn. I think it would take very select things to make you feel some type of way.
or it might just be some dumb shit that hits me.
Or
And
that.
it's like really that bothered
Yeah,
you?
this is true.
Yeah, that really bothered me.
Or when you told me the other day that something made you tear up and it was a fucking movie you were watching.
What was it?
Wasn't it fucking Black Panther 2?
Oh yeah. It was.
I'm like, what?
It was.
That you almost cried then?
You know what? Maybe a little bit. You know what it is? Things that have to do with children now, ever since I've had ever since having children, anything that has to do with children and of course and then like the father child bond, that gets me. So yeah, at the end of Black Panther, and I'm whatever, spoiler alert, I don't care. If you didn't see it yet, you didn't want to see it because it's out there.
I want to see it. I just haven't had time.
Yeah, but you also don't care about Black people enough to watch it. I mean, there's that. If it was Puerto Rican Panther, you would be
That's
all
not true. I
on it.
loved Black Panther. It's such a great movie. I want to see it.
All right. So should I not say it?
No, say it. Because I already know.
No, how about this? I won't say it, but I'll just say the particular scene. It was the post-credit scene. The post-credit scene got me.
Okay.
And not, but it didn't get me because I was sad. It got me. It was like of joy, and I was like, oh, this is cute. And it was like, oh snap! Like I didn't see that coming. I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming.
You look like you're getting emotional now thinking about it.
It was nice. It was nice.
Yeah,
it was good. Disney did a good job.
It's just so funny because you're so random, and you're so. I wouldn't say because you do have a lot of emotion, like because you're passionate, but it's just sometimes it's some of the strangest things I think that like move you.
Yeah, the last time I actually cried, I cried in a theater was that Ford versus Ferrari movie. What? When he won the race, and it made me emotional. And I was watching it with my son. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because I was watching it with him. But then it was the scene where he won the race.
You actually cried?
Yeah, a tear came out. I mean, I didn't boo-hoo. I'm not boo-hooing. That's crazy. I was like a thug tear. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
where it's like a, you know. But what happens is that if I do audible cry, like if something like made me like like do that, what I do is I'd be like, God damn, that was a good scene. Like I'll like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'll play off the little choke up.
Yeah, you're gonna play it off.
And like, oh man, does anybody else smell that? You know, kind of thing. When you do that like that.
Did Jackson see you cry?
Oh, no.
No.
He was glued. He was like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. You know, kind of thing. Like, oh, that was beautiful. Which is, it wasn't a sad scene. It was just beautiful for no reason. It was a race.
That's very interesting to me.
I don't know. Children has definitely turned me into a huge vagina.
Huge.
Okay, a vagina, not a huge one. But maybe the girl is, you know, she's definitely taken away some testosterone. Mine, like I've definitely lost muscle mass since her. And it's like it's night and day.
That's so weird.
Night and day. I packed on
Did
weight.
you just call her the girl?
No, not that I had a girl.
Oh.
Did I say the girl?
I think so.
The girl.
Yeah.
Well, having this child that is now my first daughter.
Yes, having a daughter. Yeah.
Right. Has certainly, I feel like has stripped something away from me. And it's definitely my T levels for sure. I don't know why, but there was a night and day difference between before and after her. And
do you think it's the fact that she was a girl?
Maybe.
Okay.
Or maybe it's the fact that just lack of sleep reduces testosterone.
And you're older now,
out of routine.
and it's a different situation.
Thanks. Bringing in age. Yeah.
I mean,
naturally it should drop. Right. But
or is a timing thing.
The timing was spot on.
Interesting.
Spot on. I mean, it was maintaining a body weight of a certain number and then immediately going to a body weight that I've never ever seen in my life, ever, never seen in my life. And then just maintaining muscle mass has been a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, but we've talked about how your whole routine has changed as well. So it's not like you can say it was just she's the only factor. Like your whole life looks different.
I looked better after COVID. I looked better 3 months after almost dying than 3 months after you pushing a baby out.
Right.
I mean, go figure.
That's interesting.
And there's pictures to prove it.
Right. We have receipts.
Yeah. Yeah. But whatever. What can you do? But I you know what? I do not have the balls to ever have my levels checked.
Why?
Because I would never want to hear the bad news that it went down. I feel like if I don't know, then I can always just pretend pretend that everything's fine.
That's fair.
And then all this conversation that we're having is just a joke and entertainment and for the people
versus confirmation.
Just to add minutes, right? Versus confirmation is like, no, sir, you have low T.
Then
now
you have
everything is related to low T. Now then I feel like all of a sudden my dick would just stop working. It'd be like, oh, God damn, it must be that low T. And then what? Okay, now I get on TRT. I get on some sort of hormone replacement. And then
where does it stop?
Yeah, well, it doesn't at that point.
Right.
You can't. You're riding this out until the day you go. You have to. You have to. So
fair enough.
No. I hope this is all satire and there's no problem. The problem is just lack of sleep, lack of routine, lack of sufficient diet because of routine, yada, 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 and not because I'm slowly turning into a woman. There's that. So before we get into like the serious bag of opening up things. Yeah. I want to talk about what you shared with me earlier today. So you were listening to a podcast, Spicy Life. Is that the name of the podcast?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And in this particular, is this a more recent episode? Or is this
I feel like it's her last episode.
Okay, so this is the most recent one. It was featuring two people, Ron G and Bree Jenkins.
Yeah, I think so. If I'm recalling. I completely forgot. So you're probably right.
There it is. And they were having a bunch of different conversations. And one of the things that you brought to my attention was a conversation that they were having about dating.
Yes.
And the importance of creating this space where you're being honest with your potential partner.
Correct. This is before exclusivity. But doing this will set the tone for making sure that you have a relationship not only built on integrity, but then maintaining integrity throughout because you didn't sully it with white lies or omission from the beginning,
like that. Exactly.
Even before you were exclusive. So that was one person's take on it, and then another person disagreed.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So in their particular scenario, which I did not get to this part of the podcast, I started listening to the top of the podcast, and I stopped before I heard what they had to say.
Right.
Primarily because I want to have this conversation with you without having any of their opinions change the way I come at you with this. So anyone out there that does decide to listen to their podcast, Spicy Life, this more recent episode, if I do say something that is similar to someone that's on the panel, it's not me parroting what they said because I stopped listening before
you heard it.
I got to that part. But up until that point, it was a pretty interesting podcast.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
So this particular scenario that they painted was you're dating someone. You're in a dating phase with this particular person. And you are in a position where you are dating other people. This person is asking for your time by way of reaching out to you by text message or phone call. You do not answer this text message or phone call because you are currently out with someone else.
On another date.
Another date with someone else. Is it appropriate to let that individual know that your time was being occupied by someone else
Mm-hmm.
that you're dating,
Mm-hmm.
or do you walk around it as if, hey, that's currently none of their business. I don't owe that to this person.
Mm-hmm.
I can either not say anything. Was that on the table? Or was it more so creating a white lie in order to
They went with that part.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it was two extremes.
Yes.
Either I'm completely open and let this person know what's happening,
Correct.
or I hit them with a white lie to
Something,
make
yeah.
them feel better. Like, hey, I was actually out to dinner with my mom.
Right.
Like, that's what I was
Right.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of asking the people,
Mm-hmm.
what do they think? But we're going to talk about it together.
Mm-hmm.
First, I want to know what you think. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that it's appropriate to give all of the truth to an individual that you're not exclusive with. So I don't think it's necessary to say, hey, I wasn't available because I was on a date with another human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I also don't think that if you don't do that, then it means that you're starting that potential relationship with that person based on lies.
Right.
I don't agree with that.
Which, from what you were telling me, was an argument that one person was
Yes.
making.
She was saying that it's the host of the show, that was her take on it.
Okay.
That she thinks that if you're that you're setting the tone from the very beginning.
Mhm.
So potentially if you start lying now, it could just be all built on lies. And if that person can't handle the truth,
Mm-hmm.
then that's telling of, then that's not the person for you.
Correct.
That was her thing. I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
The other woman on there was saying something that I agreed with more. She was saying that you're not exclusive yet. You don't owe anything to that individual. And potentially when you're too honest, when it's not called for, you could maybe even ruin what could have been possible with that other individual. And that it's not really, while you're potentially stopping feelings from being hurt. It's not so much about the lying.
Right. So jealousy.
Right.
Gotcha.
I side more with that.
Did he have a take on it? You don't have to say it right now.
He agreed with.
Okay, never mind. You're going in.
Yeah.
What did you just say he agreed with? So before you give me his take, I want to spit out my take because we're seeing two separate sides here, and now we're seeing your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So did you have anything else that you wanted to add to?
No, I don't think so.
To yours?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked what you had to say as well.
So
somewhere in the middle.
I kind of like the Goldilocks, the baby bear of the two. So both of them are kind of extreme, right? Either you're completely open or you're just giving a little white lie to just make someone feel good. I think that there is a space in the middle that would be more appropriate for a situation like this. And I say that only because I've been in a situation like this where I was on the dating apps dating multiple people, and anytime it was asked of me if I was dating other people, I always responded with the truth. Yes, I am seeing other people.
I want to add that everyone agreed that you should, when you're dating, you should always assume that the other person is dating other people. That was something everybody agreed on. Even if that person says they're not, or you always have to assume until you're exclusive with someone, they're seeing other people. So always start there. I
think that's important.
Yeah.
The problem is that when you expect people to assume things, you create the space to where that person might decide to take the naive approach and think that no, they're the only one that you're talking to. You see what I'm saying? Like yes, I think that everyone should assume that if we are on this platform, if we are on a dating app, and the idea of the dating app is to get dates in order to find a match, it becomes a numbers game. Because I already know that out of the 100 people that I match with, I'm probably going to see 10 of them in person, and 9 of them are not going to be worth my time. And so there's going to be this one person. So at any given moment, I'm going to be dating multiple people at a time.
Right.
Right. Not because I'm necessarily trying to be a serial dater, but because I already know that
it looks like.
In order to weed things out.
Yeah.
This is just a part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there are people out there that would take more of the naive approach and think that even though they're on a dating app and they understand on their end it's about a numbers game, the person that they're talking to isn't doing the same thing.
Well, and that's the wrong.
And
yeah.
I say that because I've been in a situation before
Mm-hmm.
where it came about because I was having just the top generic conversation with someone. Hey, you know, how are you doing? Where are you from? Where were you born? You know, what do you do for a living? Yada, yada, yada. And then I forgot that I already asked that person that, and
Mhm.
I asked them something else. I asked them a question again. It wasn't as basic as that, but it was, I guess, basic enough where I guess I should have remembered. But but then they got upset with me. They're like, oh, well, you must be talking to other people because you can't remember what we've talked about. And I said, yeah, you're right. Like,
Had you been on a date with this person?
no.
That's crazy.
But I was like, yeah, you're right. I am talking to a
Isn't
lot
that
of
the
different other
point?
people. So my apologies for not remembering exactly what you told me.
Yeah.
You know, is that going to be a problem moving forward? And for that particular person, it was a problem moving forward.
Interesting. And you hadn't even met in person?
No, we haven't met in
Yikes,
person.
you probably dodged a bullet there.
Well, I certainly dodged a bullet because now you're holding me against the fire for something as big. Like, we didn't even get to the out of the app stage.
That's crazy.
But
and there was already exclusivity expected?
100%. 100%. At
Yikes.
least in this,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
or
pretty
I should
bizarre.
have respected her enough to remember what was said and what wasn't said.
That's a bit much.
And whatever. I don't have time for that. But yes, I do think everyone should assume, because that is the obvious, especially
Right.
if we met by way of a dating app.
Mhm.
Now, if we met by way of, let's say we had a mutual friend,
Mhm.
and that mutual friend came to me and said, hey, you know, I got a girlfriend of mine, you know, she's, you know, not really on a date, you know, in the dating scene or, you know,
Mhm.
whatever it may be, but I think you all would be a perfect match. You might meet up. I still will assume that you have options and that you might be entertaining the possibility of being with someone else. But the idea of you being a serial dater, I guess, is it, well, serial dater is usually used as like a pejorative.
Or you could just say, or
for
just dating other people.
dating other people,
Yeah.
multiple people, right?
Mhm.
If we met off of the dating app, then I might feel in my head that you might be more focused in on who you're dating and who you're with.
And I also think that when people match someone or other people together, typically it's because
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know where I'm going.
Your friend that knows me know that I'm not out
Exactly.
bullshitting
Correct.
because
And
at the
vice
end of the day,
versa.
right? Because
Right.
at the end of the day, it's going to be on them.
Correct.
Right? Because if she sets me up with someone that's out and about doing things, or might have someone that she's interested in, then you're setting me up for her, and she doesn't want to deal with that smoke because she's a middleman. Exactly.
Right.
So yes, you said it best. Right. If a mutual party hooks us up, I'm under the impression that she already did her homework. She understands that if she's talking to me at work,
Right.
then she knows that I'm not dating anyone. And you're her homegirl. So she knows that you're not dating anyone because you're not talking about anybody. And now she links us up.
Exactly.
And then boom. But even with that, I still wouldn't be expecting exclusivity.
I agree.
Off the rip. I think that is something that is earned and
spoken
and
about.
when we're there, it's spoken about.
For sure. Established.
So going back to the conversation that they had, if I was in that situation where I'm out on a date and then my phone goes ring, 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 and I don't answer, the next day, you know, assuming that this is a night thing, we went out to dinner, yada, 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 I am going to respect this person. I'm not going to hit them up at 11 o'clock at night after I'm done doing what I was doing. To me, that is, that's a bit disrespectful. And it's like, it's real immature, and it's almost like the booty call kind of treatment.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. Depending on where we are.
And it feels like to the other person, like, I'm done doing whatever I was doing.
Now I have time for you.
Whatever
I was doing before didn't work out.
Yeah.
I feel like And
unless that was the arrangement, but that would be a completely different thing.
So we'll table that idea because
Mhm.
I think that there is something that can be added to that scenario there,
Okay.
right? But in my scenario, if this happened to me and I was too busy to answer this person, when I called them the next day, I may apologize and be like, hey, I missed. Well, I'm not going to say sorry. I'm not going to say sorry. I missed your phone call. Hey, I missed your phone call last night. How's your weekend going? And then try to carry on a conversation. But I'm not going to be apologetic to me missing a phone call.
I don't think that's
because
necessary.
I don't think that's necessary. And I don't want to set up this sorry kind of thing because then that kind of asserts
like you owe somebody something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
That kind of gives you the authority to
Entitlement.
have
Yeah.
the entitlement because I'm now apologizing
I
to
agree.
you. Hey, I missed your phone call last night.
And I don't think most people would.
How's your weekend? How's your morning
Yeah.
going? And then just keep on going. And if that person decided to ask me, what was I doing last night? Just like casual. Obviously, if you're grilling me, done. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, what were you doing last night? If it came
Yikes.
off like that, done deal.
Yeah.
Done deal. Because now
That's crazy.
you've taken it to a level that it doesn't need to go. But if throughout the conversation, she was talking about her night last night and, yada, yada, yada. And she was like, so what did you...
It's expected for you to share.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she was like, so what did you end up doing last night?
Mhm.
Then I would just say something casual like, oh, I just went out to dinner with a friend. Went out to dinner with, an acquaintance. Boom. Keep it simple. I wouldn't do this thing where I'm now lying and saying, oh, I went out with my mother. I'm not going to bring my mother into this.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, oh, I went out to dinner, with...
I think what you're
whatever.
saying is one and the same.
I'm not lying. And I
But
know,
it's a
and I know,
date,
and I
so
know,
but you're not saying that.
Okay, but it's also dinner.
I don't
So,
like that.
Okay. So I know some people would say that omitting the truth is the same as lying.
Sometimes it is.
I do not think in this particular case it is. And I say that because me dating someone else isn't me doing something wrong.
Correct. So you
Because
should be
we're
able to
not
say
exclusive.
it or not.
Well, if that's what you choose to do
Yeah.
and you want to do
Right.
that, I'm not opposed to that. I just don't think that that is necessary. And so
Right.
because me dating isn't doing anything wrong, I don't think it is necessarily omitting any information because I'm not doing anything wrong
Mhm.
by saying I went out to dinner with an acquaintance or I went out to dinner with a friend.
Okay, but
Because I did go out to dinner with a friend or an acquaintance.
you went on a date. But okay, so but what would be wrong with saying, you know what? Yeah, I happened to be on another date last night. What would be wrong with saying that if you don't owe anybody anything?
So
why wouldn't you just go there?
So I don't think there would be anything wrong with it. I just don't think that it's necessary. And I just come from the space, and maybe this is me, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I just come from the space where if it's unnecessary to give up information, then you don't need to give up unnecessary information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if she asked, well, was this a date? Then I'm going to be honest and say, yes, it was a dinner date. But if it's getting to that point, then now you're asking for it. And maybe you're asking for clarity because you want to know, is this an exclusive thing? And then at that point, how are you, how do you feel about that? Depending on where we are.
Yeah. When this conversation was very much about like super early stages, couple dates in, like not even, it's just couple dates in, but you're vibing.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like you're getting to the point where there's feelings and you're considering exclusivity. This was like super new.
I'm standing 10 toes down and I'm saying I don't think there's anything wrong with saying I was out to dinner with an acquaintance. Okay. I was out to dinner with a friend. And yes, it was a date, but it's also dinner. And I believe that the only time omitting information is the same as lying is if you are doing something wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think that
and you owe the truth to that person.
And you owe the truth to that person. I do not think that same rule applies when you don't owe anything to that person. Mm-hmm. Now, if that person asks you, if you were on a date.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it is important to tell them the truth.
Do you think that's appropriate for someone to ask that question?
Um,
Like, how would you feel about that?
well, I would get curious and I would ask them back, how do you feel about that? And the only reason why I would ask them is because I would want to know what their expectations are. And I
Mhm.
think that would be the perfect opportunity to set up a space to figure out what their expectations are.
Mhm.
Because even if it is early on and we went on, 2 or 3 dates and
Mhm.
things like that, maybe sometimes people are more serious than other people. Because 2 or 3 dates, depending on who you are, that can look like a lot of work. If
Yeah.
you're 2 or 3 dates in and you're 20 and you don't have children and you don't have any responsibilities, then that could be as easy as you just putting on makeup and leaving the house.
Yeah.
But if 2 or 3 dates in your 30s, that looks like you had to get a sitter, you had
Mhm.
to make plans, or you're
And you clearly are
doing
into
this.
this person
You're
because they're
clearly into
worth
this
all of
person.
that effort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you're doing it on a day where maybe the baby daddy has the. You see what I'm
Correct.
saying? So
Yeah.
your
It's a
window's
planned-
a lot smaller.
Correct. It took effort.
So 2 or 3 dates could mean, hey, I'm ready to be serious, and I don't want to be in a space where I feel like I'm
Wasting
sharing
my
your time and
time.
attention
Yeah.
with somebody else.
Mhm.
So, do I think that it's appropriate? I mean, I think that is an appropriate question only if it actually carries weight for you. If you're just being nosy and then and it's revealed that you asking that question is nothing more than just wanting to be all up in my business and that you're actually not
Yeah.
looking for exclusivity with me or anything
Yeah.
like that, then at that point I think that was
I
an
also feel
unnecessary
like that
question.
question would only be asked by a person who's not dating other people.
Or someone that is dating someone else, but they want to have their cake and eat it too. But more than likely, it is coming from someone that isn't dating other people.
Because they would want you to be doing the same
to
thing.
be on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that would be the perfect opportunity to have a conversation about what's going on.
Yeah.
But I do not think it's appropriate to lie to them, right? And say no just to save their feelings. And I understand where that person is coming from, the Bree Jenkins.
She didn't say no.
No.
Yeah, she
I'm
didn't.
not saying that
Yeah,
part. But
yeah.
where I was getting at was I understand where she was coming from when she was saying that you don't want to potentially ruin a good thing. Because
Right,
at the
when
end
you're
of the
not in
day,
that space.
because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you are dealing with people.
We're
So
human,
it is a
right.
roll of the dice because it
Correct.
can go south.
Yeah.
It can, and I can see a world where someone is actually feeling you,
Mhm.
and then they find out that you're dating somebody else. Now they feel like that they're feeling you more than you're feeling them,
Mhm.
and that's not a good position to be in for most
Right.
people. Most people don't like to be in that
Yeah.
position. And unless you have the maturity
Mhm.
to get through that and talk about it and express what you need from that other person and see if they can meet you there, then you're going to be operating in a zone where you might miss out on a good opportunity or not. Because to kind of validate what the host was saying
Mhm.
was, if this person can't handle that,
Correct.
and by handle that, I don't think necessarily means can you take it on the chin and keep it moving, and or it shouldn't matter to you because it's not your business, or hey, this person's being honest with me, so
Mhm.
whatever. But handling it can also mean, and I don't know if those were her exact words, but handling it can also mean, what do you do in this situation? Do you react in a positive manner where now you use this as the window of opportunity to express
Mhm.
what you want
Mhm.
from this,
Right.
and then move forward? Then you might be doing yourself a favor by telling the person the truth. And if they handle it poorly, then you know that that's how other conflicts or other
Maybe,
things
maybe not. Yeah.
might be handled. Did I jumble that up?
No. It made sense.
Okay. All right.
I think it's a lot of pressure
Uh-huh.
to do that to people very early on.
Uh-huh.
It could go either way. But I don't think it's a definitive thing of how things could look in the future necessarily, which is why I think the other woman was saying, like, all of that energy needs to be tabled for when you're exclusive. All that heavy stuff and expectations and seeing how people navigate conflict. That's way too much pressure
in the beginning
for a couple dates in. I agree with that more, to be honest with you. I do.
Yeah.
But I understand the other side of it. Because you could be weeding things out, but maybe not. I think that could maybe just be too deep as a general rule.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I feel about it.
No, I get it.
Like you and I wasn't dating other people just because I wasn't a dater. I assumed you were dating other people. We never even had that discussion, and it was just not necessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, I assumed you were dating other people. That's how I looked at it, even though I wasn't.
Right.
And to this day, I don't think it's necessary for me to know yes or no, or we weren't exclusive. You know what I mean?
The first time around where we met, I was dating other people. But the second time around, I wasn't because of how we linked back up.
Okay.
That wouldn't have been appropriate at that time for me.
Okay, I see.
Because when we first met, we met
on a dating app.
Right off the dating app.
Right.
And we exchanged numbers.
Yes.
And we met very, very shortly after. And then we had a long break.
Like a week later, yeah. We had a date like a week after speaking. Yeah.
And then afterwards, we didn't see each other for months.
9 months.
Damn near a year, right? And then I reached back out to you through your DM asking, can we try this again? And I think at that point, because now I'm asking you, can we try this again? And I want to say I even asked you, like, if you're not dating anyone else.
Yeah, because you were like
you
didn't want to text me because you weren't, you didn't want it to be awkward.
Right. I didn't. Right.
Exactly.
I didn't, I try to be a gentleman about it.
You did, and you were like, listen, if you're not seeing anybody, I would love to take you out on another date.
Right.
It was very appropriate.
So because I approached you that way, I felt that it would have been inappropriate to then be out dating other people at that time.
Yeah.
Now,
because I wasn't looking for it, and we weren't in this dating scene, and I see what you're saying.
Now, do I think I would have been wrong for doing it because we weren't exclusively dating? I don't think I would have been wrong, but I think I think it's important that when you're out there dating and you have opportunities to practice how you want to play, I think it's important to take those opportunities to practice how you want to play.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is that if you find yourself in a position where you can actually date someone without the numbers game being a factor, because that numbers game being a factor can really hurt you in a way, because you might not even if you don't realize it, but you might always be looking for the next hit, especially if this date was better than the previous date and this date was better than the previous date. Like if you're getting lucky like that, then you might walk in this with the mindset of, well, this date was good and every date's been getting better and better. Like what's
what else is out there? Yeah.
And you could be missing out on something nice if you have the opportunity to go about it where you could create a pseudo exclusive kind of situation.
Energy.
Based on energy, based on how it took place.
Right.
Because if we matched again on the app, then I think that it would have been fair game for me to assume that you were dating other people.
Because I'm on the app.
But I asked the question, and then that's kind of how it was. But even then, even with that, we still ended up having months later a conversation about exclusive dating. So I don't. If I dated anyone else during that time frame, I really don't remember. I really don't think I did. But I had so many meaningless dates that I've forgotten more dates than I can remember. If that makes sense. But I really don't think so. Not in that time. And another reason why I think I made that decision was I knew what your time meant. Yeah. And I knew what that looked like. because you had so much going on with your children and work
Right.
and
Because
your
we had
personal
talked
life
about
and,
that before.
and then
Yeah.
how your personal time usually is with your children because
Right.
of that. So having to, or just getting the opportunity to get that window, I knew what that meant. It was like, well, I'm not gonna waste time, kind of thing.
Oh, babe.
Right.
You're so cute.
There was something else that I was gonna say about that thing that I said I was gonna table and we were gonna get back to, and I completely forgot what I was talking about.
Fuck, I had it like right here too until you just said it and then it went away.
Because I got too far away from it. But it was about the dating thing, and we had just talked about
booty calls and calling people after a date around certain times and that booty call energy. I don't know where you were going though, but I do remember that
energy,
because you were like, "Oh, I don't think it's appropriate to call somebody at 11 o'clock at night after you've been on a date." And I said, "Yeah, 'cause that's like," and you're like, "That's like booty call territory."
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. I would do that only if I seriously was doing something that did not have to do with dating someone else. If I really, watch this, if I really did, maybe I said that wrong. If I really did go out and have dinner with my mom and then spent the evening with my son.
Okay.
If I was really doing something that was other than dating type activity.
Okay.
Then I would reach out to that person, depending on where we were.
Okay.
Right. And depending on how the vibes were. Like if this was a person that was okay with that and we were kind of there, and I would want to say 2 or 3 dates in, you might be okay with reaching out to them. It was like, hey, you know, whatever.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I just saw I had a missed call from you. I just want to let you know that, I'm acknowledging that I saw this.
Okay.
And
I see. I thought you
I'm
meant
available
like,
to talk.
Okay.
Not booty call, not a booty call.
Okay.
No.
I was like, what?
I'm saying during those hours.
Got it.
Because now I know for a fact, I'm not treating you like the second option of that day.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't out dating someone else and then it didn't go well.
Do you
or whatever,
think that at that point it would be appropriate to say what you were doing?
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Just
and at
so
that point,
person,
because of that time frame.
Got it. Okay.
Because and because it took hours for me to respond, I would give up unnecessary information only because I don't want you to think right off the bat that you were the second option of the night. And I think that is owed to you if
you choose to
in that situation.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm okay with that. I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it can get weird, especially when you know how the numbers games work. And then now it's a Friday night and I hit you up at 6 o'clock and you don't respond until 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Right. It's
kind
of
and
obvious.
then especially if there hasn't always been a 4-hour window between, text exchanges.
Yeah.
I think at that point, yeah. Hey, I just saw a great movie with my mom.
Yeah.
I recommend and that's how I would say it. I wouldn't be like, hey, I'm sorry I missed your call because
yeah.
I wouldn't do it in a way where it's a pity kind of thing, or like I'm trying to defend myself. It would be done in a way where it's mad casual.
Yeah,
and it's and that way you can kind of get that. He was with. Oh, that was cute. He went bowling with his son.
Yeah,
and he.
No, I like that.
His son bowled his first strike. So then they went out for ice cream. Cool. Boom.
Yeah, I like that.
See what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm glad you. Yeah. Glad you remember it. All right, so we're 45 minutes in.
Already?
All right. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We. Okay, so I would say, should we just stay on this and then but no. I won't do that. I won't do that.
Well, I think we kind of like that's all
Set
there
the
was
tone
to say.
With that?
Don't you think?
Sure. It's done deal. What do you people think? Do you think it is necessary to give up information?
Appropriate, called for, warranted. Yeah. What side are you on? Or is there a middle ground like you were saying?
What side was he on? You said he agreed
with not the host, the other woman.
Okay, he was
like
okay.
He was okay with like,
white
listen,
lie.
you need to just like, it's not appropriate to give up a whole bunch of energy or a whole bunch of information.
Okay, so
that early on.
Okay, so not even white lie it. Just
Yeah.
or he didn't go into
It was
he didn't go
very
into detail.
general what he
Just-
said, but you could tell he was more in agreement with the other woman, not the host.
He sounds like the type of guy that wouldn't be giving up all the information on the
Correct.
planet. So
But he's a man.
He would probably play
Yeah,
it the way I
like-
play it.
Yeah.
Just keep it real,
Right.
real casual,
Real casual.
and then try to avoid it.
Right.
Because if I don't want to talk about last night, I'm not going to ask you about your night last night.
Yes,
Because I'm not going to set it up for you to then turn around and ask me.
Yeah.
I'm talking about today. Hey, how's your morning going?
Right. What are your plans
What are your
tonight?
plans for the day? And then I'm going to try to
Yeah.
keep you on today. I don't want you to talk about
Right.
your night last night
Yeah.
because I don't want you to ask me about mine. That would be my first goal is to
Mhm.
try to keep that conversation where I wanted to go.
Yeah. That's where he
And that's
was
away
at.
from that.
Right.
That. So last episode, we talked briefly about traumas that
This got real heavy.
What?
Like trauma.
trauma. Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
So how do I want to word this? Traumas that were
Personal trauma. Like, yeah. Right. Not
Yes.
just because, I mean, trauma is pretty general.
that occurred primarily during childhood,
Right.
and what we were focusing on was things that your parents may or may not have done
Yeah.
that has changed your way of interacting with the world.
And in
Because
turn,
of-
it could have affected relationships for you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share one of the things that I recently, and by recently I mean within the past few years, to like 2 or 3 years,
Mhm.
did some reflecting on to kind of get a better understanding on, certain events that have been taking place in my life and how I view certain events, and even like knee-jerk reactions
Mm.
that are consistent with how I interact with damn near everything,
Yeah.
or even how my lifestyle is,
hmm
as far as how I work, how I communicate, how I just function in society as a whole. And
And your relationships too, or
relationships,
Okay.
relationships too.
okay.
And so as I hit the rewind button to figure out, okay, where did it
Where'd that
start? Where did
come
it start?
from?
Where did it
Yeah.
start? Where did this come from? One of the things that I was able to pinpoint this to, and I don't know exactly if this is the exact thing that did it, but this is the big event that I can
Mhm.
think of that really ignited this fire, was when I was, what was I, 16 or 17, maybe 17. I was going into my junior year of high school.
Okay.
My parents moved me from the school that I spent all of my childhood in, for the most part. The
So
school
you have
district.
grown up with these people.
You're right. So I grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and I went to school with these people from kindergarten all the way until I finished the 10th grade, and I finished the summer there for the most part.
Mhm.
And then starting the 11th grade year and my senior year, I spent in Broadview Heights, Ohio. My parents decided to make a move. It was an upgrade. So we were moving into a bigger, better home. I would imagine that there was incentives and things like that and taxes. Not that I'm older. I'm sure there was just more than just a bigger, better house. It
Yeah.
was just
Adulting
adulting
decisions.
decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from what I understand, a part of the thing that made them want to make that decision was they were seeing that I was doing things in my life that could have taken me down a path that they didn't want to see me go down.
Do you agree with that now as an adult? That part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they thought it was in my best interest to get me out
So you
of,
would agree.
right, get me out of Shaker. And Shaker is a lot like Florida, how it's designed, where it's the suburb that sits in the middle of
Like
Cleveland.
Central Florida?
Yeah, Central Florida.
Okay.
Like it's a suburb that sits in the middle of Cleveland. So what's separating you from Cleveland which where I live in anyone that's in the Shaker, Cleveland area. And I don't think I've ever taken you. I mean, I've taken you around Cleveland, so you've seen it where you have this nice little area that's like this nice villagey looking suburb and all the homes are nice, yada, yada, yada. But then right on the other side of the train tracks, right there is Kinsman, which at the time was a little bit rougher area. And, you know,
it was like a crossing of a street and it was a different.
Right. You're not far from where things are just completely different.
Yeah.
And I liked spending time over there.
Wouldn't? It's more fun.
Right. That was enticing to me because all of my friends that I developed bonds with, they all lived on that side of town. So even though I didn't necessarily live there, I wasn't far from it. I mean, it was right there. It was very, very, easy to get to. And then they had cousins and family. And then of course I had family and cousins that lived in that part of town. So I was spending more time in areas that I shouldn't have been doing, things that I shouldn't have been doing. And so all in all, I as an adult and I look back, I know that my parents made the best decision that they thought for me and probably for them too, as far as, again, I'm sure they made a move that made sense for them as well. But as they shared it with me later on, they expressed to me that a part of the reason why that move took place was because
concern for you.
A concern for me. Correct. But with that came with consequences. And one of the consequences that came with that was during that time when I moved, anyone that went through high school that, even if you could have been anything, popular, lame, middle of the way, you nerd, whatever it may be, in a perfect world, you, regardless of what your role was in high school, you still developed who you were and you developed a clique of people that you bonded with.
Right.
Right. And at that time, I felt that I was at the point in high school and just in general, just my school life in general, where I was finding myself. I had some money. I had a car. I was looking better.
Right.
I was getting better with women, not just, or girls, but not, well, and women too. But I mean, let's be real.
Humble brag.
Both. But not just at my school, but surrounding schools. Yeah. I was, shaking and moving, doing things. I had friends that were like brothers. And when that move happened, I really felt like everything was just stripped away from me.
Yeah.
So all those connections that I had
at an age where all that matters are your peers.
So much.
That's your whole life. Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters.
As a teenager, your friends and those your people around you is the only fucking thing that matters. Yeah.
So here I am, not only going from one environment to a whole different extreme, where I'm going to a school before that was I don't know the census on Shaker, but it felt like it was predominantly black. If it wasn't predominantly black, it was a pretty even split.
Okay.
Lot of Jewish kids, a lot of black, maybe some Asians, some Indians splashed in there, but it was a very diverse school, right? It was set up in a way where whatever you were, if you were a gamer, if you were a jock, if you were a dope boy, if you were a music head, if you were, a yo-yo guy, a skateboarder, there was always something for you. And then there were always people that looked like you, right? And then I get sent over to a school where the percentage of black people is 1%. And now not only am I battling with just everything was just, my identity was stripped from me and my peer group and things like that. And I'm watching people that I once called brothers now become friends and then to become acquaintances and then become people that I don't speak to anymore.
Yeah.
I'm also dealing with being an outcast. I'm a stain on the school because I'm, now
This 1%.
this
Yeah.
1%. So some people saw me as like a token black guy where, I'm cool and I'm interesting. And then other people see me as a nigger and, being called a nigger and having
Yeah.
to deal with that and what that looked like in Ohio. And at that time, getting into fights, getting into trouble, feeling like I'm not being heard or I'm black before I'm anything else. And I guess just kind of getting a rude awakening to what America looks like,
Yeah.
as opposed to this suburb where it felt a little bit more inclusive, right? And this is me looking back. I don't, maybe my experience was different because in Shaker, I wouldn't consider myself. I wasn't popular. I wasn't a lame. I was like how I am today. I was everywhere. Like I can kind of like just be a chameleon. I can hang out with the white boys. I can hang out with the dope boys. I can hang out with the jocks.
And you grew up with all these people.
And I grew up with all these people.
Even
So
when you
I
venture
knew
out
them.
into cliques, you still remember when we were all in elementary school playing
kindergarten.
together.
Like, I know
right. Exactly.
I know all of you. Right. Even if we're not tight. Like
I get it.
I know
you. Yeah,
you.
that was my experience. So I understand. Yeah.
So I felt that when I was there, I was known because everyone knows me.
Right.
But I wasn't like, revered and, put in the sky as like this cool kid. But I was able to blend in and I played my role in the school. Right. I always had girlfriends. Sometimes I had, the girl that a lot of people were trying to go after. I had a car. Yeah, just access. So it was like I had a good time. Like I had a great high school experience.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not one of those guys that like that was my peak and I felt certainly not that. But I had a great high school experience. I am not one of those people that look back and be like, ugh, high school, I dread that. Like, no. Yeah. I had a good time.
Yeah.
But it created the space where I lost connection with a lot of those people. And I'm not exactly sure why. I think that I played a big part in it because one of the things that I then did was instead of me trying to hang on to something that that wasn't mine anymore, I didn't like the idea of being a guest in a place that was once my home.
Got it.
So my reaction to that
essentially,
was,
you had a car. So it's not like you couldn't go see people or
100%.
hang out or go party with people on the weekends, like your old
and I
friend.
did,
You know
and I
what
did
mean?
occasionally.
Yeah.
But I felt like a guest. I didn't feel like I was in the mix anymore.
But that was probably a you thing.
But yeah, it probably was a me thing.
Yeah.
And I guess my all or nothing personality kind of kicked in and I just kind of slowly started
You were always
turning.
like that at that point? Like
What?
all or nothing?
All or
Or you
nothing?
think it came from there?
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure people would have called me an extreme person, like an all or nothing type. But I definitely feel like that this event really shot it to a whole different level. Because now it instilled in me that all relationships are nothing but just short-term things. Right?
It could be taken away.
And can be taken away from you at any moment. And I know that at some point, the people that I went to high school with, especially now, maybe not so much then, but I certainly know now that yes, any of the people that I was friends with in high school, we all eventually are going to spread out. But I think when that happens, it's more of a natural process because you're graduating together. I didn't get to graduate with these people. I didn't get to graduate with people that I loved and people that, again, I call brothers. And even if I wasn't cool with people, like, tight with people, I still started with these people and I would have loved to be able to finish with these people. So even something as simple as a graduation, I never got to enjoy that because I wasn't doing it with my people. I was doing it with people that didn't like me.
Yeah.
And then
in a place you didn't want to be.
and then trying to celebrate with people, and maybe this is just how I felt and maybe not how they would have felt, but if I tried to celebrate that with the people that I actually wanted to be with, I almost felt like I didn't deserve that anymore because I'm no longer with that clan. I'm no longer with those group of people. So I
I'm sure that
don't,
was more of a you thing.
probably more of a me thing.
Yeah.
But I felt that I was forgotten about. And again, maybe I was forgotten about, maybe I wasn't forgotten about, but I certainly felt like I was forgotten about, that I didn't matter. And that is how relationships now work for me,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where, regardless of how much time you spend with someone, or, how much you love these people and you want to be around them, you could be forgotten about like that. And that then led to, me recreating who I was, not necessarily as an individual, but who I identified with and who I hung out with, right? And now fast forward a little bit, I'm in my, I'm 20 years old. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I have a group of people that I'm hanging out with. I was heavy into motorcycles, so, riding around with different little stunt bike crews and going to different frat parties because I didn't go to college. But I would always kick it at different frat parties, riding around on motorcycles and
Mm-hmm.
doing this thing. And I decided to join the military. But that decision was easier for me to do, knowing that I was going to essentially be leaving everyone that I have now built this bond with. But
You
it
already did
wasn't
that.
a hard thing to do because I already
Yeah.
did that before.
Mm-hmm.
I've already
Yeah.
left a group of people that I cared about. I can leave these people.
Yeah.
What is it to me? And so it was just
It was
I had
easy for you to do.
easy for me to do. And I had no reason. It wasn't like I joined the military because you know, I was struggling and, yada, 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 or I was in
Or your
trouble.
parents were like,
or
listen, you need to
parents was
figure
like,
this
you need to
shit
figure it
out.
out.
Yeah.
No, I was fine. I mean, I did have a reason for joining at the time. It was because my brother was joining. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I want to get out of Ohio. I'll join because he's joining. And I did it like on the fly. I put in 2 weeks notice at Allstate. That's where I was working at the time. I put in 2 weeks notice and I was out in 12 days. Cashed my 401k out like an idiot and I bounced. You know what I'm saying? But that was the easy thing to do because I had already done it before. So now here we are, a second time in my life where I'm now abandoning relationships in order to basically just become a completely different human being.
Yeah, start over.
Because you become a completely different human being when
Right.
you go through boot camp and now you're assigned to a base and you're building whole new bonds, whole new connections.
And you don't know where life is going to take you either.
And you don't
Yeah.
know because you're just one paperwork away from going
God
from
knows
here
what.
to
Yeah.
there. Right. So when that happened, I was still kind of crushed because there were two people that one person I still speak to this day. He's
Okay.
a very good friend of mine. I love this guy.
This is from the military?
No,
or prior
no.
to?
No, this is prior to the military.
Okay.
So this is back when I was working Best Buy Allstate. We rode motorcycles together.
But you met him
really-
after high school?
After high school.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. So he was a friend from work.
Got it.
Well, oddly enough, we worked together. We weren't even friends from work. We met each other through riding motorcycles.
But you worked together?
But we worked
That's
together.
funny.
And then it's like, oh yeah, we were actually working together. And it's like, but we, but
Yeah.
it just
That's not how you
never
connected.
clicked that
Yeah.
way. No, we connected through riding motorcycles. But to this day, I still speak to him, and I love the guy, and he's been a really good friend to me overall. But outside of him, I had another two friends that I felt like were brothers of mine. These are friends from work, and I built a really good bond with them, a really good connection with them, and it felt like when I joined the military that they were happy to see me go.
Mhm.
And after going through boot camp and then coming back, it felt like they just didn't give a shit about me.
Mhm.
And these are people that I would spend a lot of time with during work, outside of work. One of them was 2 years older than me, so I almost looked up to him like a big brother.
Yeah.
And that was just completely abandoned once I left. So here we are again.
Yeah.
Now, okay, here's the trend. It's being confirmed. Relationships are just a short-term thing, so what the fuck? So now here I am in the military, developed friendships that were completely different type of friendships, completely different type of bonds. Something that's you can't get anywhere else. I really don't think unless you grew up with someone from
Mm-hmm.
from kindergarten all the way, or whatever, from kids all the way to adults, and you all still click. The military is kind of like a shortcut
So
with that, because you do so much with these people, and your
And the rest of the
experiences
world
are
wouldn't
unique, and the
understand.
rest of the
Yeah.
world just
Yeah.
cannot understand,
Mm-hmm.
right? That you have someone that will literally die for you.
Yeah.
Like, you all have made that decision and it's been tested.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I developed two very, very, very strong friendships from the service.
Okay.
And but even then, that had an expiration date on it. And that expiration date was at least 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
because 4 years you're out, or you're
Or
going to
not.
re-up.
Yeah.
But if you re-up, you get assigned to somewhere else. But even during the time that you're in, you could get assigned somewhere else.
True.
So, that kind of showed me, okay, well, relationships are still short term. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And it created this thing inside of me where it got easier for me to say, fuck it, I'll be all right. You see
Well,
what I'm
I guess
saying?
what other choice did you have?
Right.
Yeah.
So from 17, it started this thing where, fuck it, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Join the military, lost friends. Fuck it, I'll be all right. Now I'm out the service. Not
Yeah.
connecting with these people, and then being out again. Fuck it, I'll be all right. Now here I am in a marriage, right? Thinking that this is a different thing, because I'm committing myself to someone on a completely different level. But even that, even in that, when times got rough, I still had that mentality. What do I care? Fuck it, I'll be all right. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because longevity wasn't a thing for me. Long term wasn't a thing for me. Even though in my heart of hearts, and I'm a loyal individual.
Yeah. And you made that commitment.
And I made that commitment. It's still, I guess, a fear that
Because the possibility is there.
the
right?
possibility that a
And
relationship
that's
could be
been
taken away from me.
confirmed for you. Yeah.
100%. And I always carried this load of, fuck it, I'll be all right. Now, I don't want to sit here and I don't want anyone to think that I'm the victim, right? In this particular instance, I think there was a time that I could have been the victim of these circumstances. But there comes a time where, as you develop as a human being and you go through different stages in life, if you skip a beat of trying to figure out what exactly is going on with you and try to better understand yourself so you can break patterns moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
you transition out of being the victim to now being the problem.
Or realizing, like, out of all of these things, you're the common denominator.
100%.
So at some point, like, okay, what role am I playing? Not to say that your trauma didn't lead you to where you are,
Right.
but now
Right.
what?
But now what?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that? Now, unfortunately for me, it took me until I was in my 30s to reflect on all this and have, I guess you could say, a come to Jesus moment and figure out what's going on with me.
Some people don't do that ever or until much later.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
But from 17, from the first time it happened, and being completely heartbroken, being taken away from everyone that I knew and loved. And again, I understand that there was probably some mismanagement on my end, being young and bullheaded and having that all or nothing mentality, and essentially turning my back. Because I'll be interested to have a conversation, or anyone out there that's listening that grew up with me and knew me and loved
Their
me,
perspective.
their perspective on it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here saying that I felt like people forgot about me. Maybe those people felt like I forgot about them.
Yeah.
and that I possibly abandoned them. But in reality, I was heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know what it was? I felt like I handled it like one of those spoiled kids that you see like in a movie like Air Bud, you know what I'm saying? Like, just leave already, just go. I don't need you. You know, kind of thing. Like that was my reaction to it, because that was the easiest thing. Like, let me just swallow this pill now and just get the fuck over with.
Yeah.
Versus
sitting with that
the slow bleed
yeah.
of being on the outside looking in and being jealous because
Yeah.
man, I wish I was at homecoming, or I wish I was at,
prom. And
well, I did go to Shaker's prom. Yeah, I did go to Shaker's prom.
Okay.
But
It didn't
feel the same, because I felt like a guest there, and it was good, and I appreciate the young lady that invited me to prom so I can go, but it was just a different feeling, if that makes sense. Like, and it felt like my prom,
Maybe
like prom should, huh?
But maybe that's
maybe that is a me thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that is a me thing. But I don't know. But from 17 until my 30s, and I reflect on everything and how relationships have been mismanaged on my end, again, because I transitioned out of being the victim to the problem. Then now I look at all of my relationships have been short-termed and possibly could have been something different if I abandon that fuck it, I be alright mentality when it comes to bonds with human beings.
Or do you even think that subconsciously, like as far as your relationships go, you picked people who it was going to end up being short term with?
Could have been. And now
even just the setup of your relationship.
To be clear, this is not my way of saying that if I handled things differently, then I would still be married to my ex, or I would be with my most recent ex that I have 2 children with. No, this is not me saying that at all.
Yeah,
because those relationships, there's still nuance to it, and there's still more meat.
Well,
to that.
my question would be, if I wonder, like I just posed the question to you, like if those relationships were what they were because you subconsciously picked scenarios that were going to end up being short term, just off of the setup.
Could have been
more than what you were saying. You know what I mean?
Could have been, because even when I look at how I work, right? I work in a way to where I'm in it, but I'm not in it.
Well, you're in control, and I wonder if you set it up that way on purpose, because that way it can't be taken away from you.
I'm in it, but I'm not in it. I don't work full time.
Right.
Why? Because I don't want to work full time.
Well, you're in control of how you work.
I like being in a position where I can keep people at a distance where I can kind of build a relationship with you and build a bond with you
if you want to.
If I want to, but never at a point where you're now being seen as family to me, because that's what happens. If you're with colleagues that you work with, like I work with a team of people that I have at my PRN as needed for people out there that are in the medical field. So those jobs that I work where I'm going into a hospital or a rehab center, and there's a group of people, those people are family amongst each other, right? And I know this because I'm an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
Now, I have my own little relationships with these people that I have developed, right? But it's done in a way where it's not the same as a relationship that they have with one another. And I'm not envious of that. And I am more comfortable living in that space with that. You see what I'm saying? It's almost like I'm a nomad kind of personality, where I've always been
comfortable, like you would have always been there, or you're comfortable because you don't. It's a result of that trauma that happened.
I believe
to you
so. I think it's a result of that trauma, because I feel, and I don't know. Obviously, this is all hypothetical, and it obviously can never be proven. But I would imagine that if I graduated high school where I was, then it's quite possible that I would have planted deeper roots into Cleveland, and I still might be in Cleveland to this day. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm with people that I graduated with, and I'm now going off into college potentially, and I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
other things, and or maybe I'm doing some bad shit that I shouldn't have been doing, and now my roots are planting in, and now these are spoiled bad roots because now I'm, still selling drugs or
Yeah, like
doing
in trouble or
getting
yep.
in trouble or
Mm-hmm.
doing it. Who knows? Who
Right.
the hell knows? I don't know, but I do know this, that since then all of my relationships have been short-lived in comparison to what they should be,
Or
right?
could have been.
Or could have been.
Mhm.
Because watch this, if I never joined the military, that one friend that I made, Kyle, right? I would be spending weekends with him or going to games with him and doing things with him because we had that type of cool ass relationship where this was my buddy.
Yeah.
Like this was a guy that, he wasn't just a casual friend. Like I love this guy kind of thing. We had like a bromance, one would say back in the day.
Yeah.
But like this was my guy, right? But now that looks different because now it's I have to love him from a distance. Shoot him random text messages, like some pictures on, Facebook or Instagram, not Facebook. And whenever I do go into town, I usually find time to just stop by and just kick it with him on his porch for an hour and just catch up and, do that. He's one of those type of guys. But as I got older and older and older, all of my relationships became shorter and shorter and shorter. With everything from job to the women that I chose to kind of be serious with for a moment, even my children. The relationships are not healthy like they should be. Now again, I'm the problem, or I was the problem up until understanding all of this.
Yeah.
Because I've put myself in positions to where
it could look that way.
Was able to endure or be resilient to the fact that I am a nomad at heart. And as long as I got me, then I'm fine. Because I'm always going to build relationships. And I know that I can easily build relationships however I want them to look with minimal effort. Because I'm pretty charismatic. People like me everywhere I go for the most part. Right. And even when I was doing traveling therapy, like I was built for that. Right. I was built for a 3-month contract. Right. I'm in a city. I'm having a good time. And in 3 months, I'm out and I'm flipped somewhere else.
It just sounds like you found a way to control that situation. Like you turn that, it was like your defense mechanism. And then you laid out your life to make sure that you were in control of how everything looked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it is something that needed to be addressed, and it is something that needed to be worked on, because that is not, in my opinion, it's not a healthy way to be.
Well, I guess, and you can reflect and be like, it hasn't worked out for you. Clearly.
It hasn't worked out for me, and it's caused a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Right. And
there's things that you have to deal with for the rest of your life based on those things. Yeah.
Exactly. So I say all that to say, it's never too late to kind of do some self-reflecting and figure out what is going on with you,
especially
in your
when
life
things aren't working out,
right?
Or something didn't pan out the way that you would have hoped or expected it to.
So you do that self-reflecting and take advantage of the fact that in this country, it's easy to get the help that you need by way of speaking to someone about it, whether it be a professional, which is what I would recommend over anything, or a loved one, if you can't afford a professional or you just don't feel comfortable yet with a professional. Yeah. But I think it's important to speak to a professional, whether it be in person, on the phone, things like that. Because
or picking up books. There's everything out there. Right. Like, even if that's a starting point for
Right.
you. Yeah.
But you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And the work should be done on your own, right? So even though you and I, we go through therapy, like we have therapy sessions that we attend together,
Mm-hmm.
it's still important that you go to therapy on your own
Mm-hmm.
to unpack the things that you need to unpack that I necessarily can't help you with. And then
And
I
that
go
had
to
nothing
therapy
to
on
do
my,
with you,
it
if
has
we're
nothing to
being
do with me,
honest.
right?
Yeah.
And then I go to therapy on my own to figure out things
The
that are going on
same.
with me,
Yeah.
to unpack things that have nothing to do with you. Sometimes they might have something to do with you, but then it also has something to do with how I need to figure it out before I then
Right.
come to couples therapy with you. And then we, you know,
Unpack it there.
unpack what we
Mhm.
need to unpack in order to better understand each other and how to address one another. But I say all that to say, and I know I've been repeating it, that even though you have experienced trauma, right?
Mhm. We all have.
Right. And the
Mhm.
trauma happened by way of something that was completely out of your control. That excuse is only appropriate for so long before you are no longer the victim and you are now the problem.
Well, if you want to change what your life looks
If
like.
you want to change what your life looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Or the outcomes of things you may have been unhappy with.
Or let's say you don't want to change, but now you're just a wrecking ball and you're just affecting everyone that's around you, everyone that was in your
But
life.
even then, you have to look at it like you're the problem, because you could be a wrecking ball and still not realize that is a you thing.
True. You still blame everybody else.
Yeah.
Or you don't.
I know people like
you
that.
don't acknowledge.
We all do, I think.
Yeah. Or you don't acknowledge it at all. And
Right.
But when you are doing your self-reflecting, it is important to, not only see yourself as the person that is a bystander, that you are actually creating bystanders, innocent bystanders,
Yeah.
based on
Like you're
your
playing
actions.
a role.
Right.
One way or another.
At some point.
Yeah.
At some point.
Right.
So, yep. And I don't blame my parents or anything like that.
Well, and now that you're an adult and a father,
Uh-huh.
I think you understand sometimes you make the best decisions, or what you think is the best decision for the better of your family, for the better of your child. And we don't always have to like that when we're the child with parents in control of our lives. But they did what they thought was best.
Right.
And it probably was.
It probably was.
Not that it didn't come without
but
consequence.
it was heartbreaking. It was
for
very
sure.
heartbreaking.
It defined clearly what the rest of your life looked like.
Yep.
But like you're saying, who knows what the opposite would have been had that move not happened.
Right.
You just don't know.
Right.
We do what we think is best for our kids.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it then might not define who they end up becoming. But that's just a part of the journey.
Life.
Yeah.
Life.
That part.
We good?
Yeah.
All right. Was I personal enough in this episode for you? Was I serious enough? Yeah.
I liked it.
All right.
I like it when you get serious and personal.
All right. Well, let's get out of here.
Okay.
All right, people. Thank you for rocking with us. Thank you for listening. I hope that wasn't too much for anyone out there. And yeah, we'll do more episodes like this where we talk. So I hope
what we do is talk, but yeah.
Talk, yeah, whatever. All right. This has been another episode of the Feelings First, Facts Later podcast, the podcast where we be saying shit, but we ain't saying shit. I go by the name of Nathan Mitchell, and I did this with the lovely Cristina.
Bye.
Peace.